Hey, everybody, just wanted to talk about supervisors, how to be a great supervisor, in my opinion. Um, I know this from being um, working all my life since pretty much since I was 12. I'm 38 now. Um, Being in the labor style, blue collar jobs, being a supervisor, previously being a supervisor myself and seeing how supervisors have transcended over my time. I'm not a baby boomer or anything. I was born in the 80s, early 80s. But something I want to teach to those that want to learn to be a supervisor, in my opinion. I'm not an expert. Hey, it is what it is. There's different styles to being supervisors. This is just my opinion. So um to start out, if you're going to plan on being a supervisor, know your craft before you do it. There's people that I know guys that have come out of college, of all things, as drama majors or English majors, and the jobs that they were hoping for with that degree ends up not panning out. Next thing you know is they're being welding supervisors with no experience, no knowledge, but hey, they have a college degree, so they feel they should be in a supervisory role or management role because they have college education. And it's sad when a college degree gets you a higher paying job, which, hey, you put in time in that perspective, but it puts you ahead of people that have earned it, as far as I'm concerned. Now, by that I mean you want to be you go into college to be a supervisor, or I mean you go into college to be, say, an English major. Okay? Well, you've gone to school now and based your life around English. You could be a teacher, you could be, going into writing, anything like that. Great. I don't know anything about it. I'll be honest, I couldn't tell you the difference between an adjective or an adverb. But if you come into the welding industry and want to be a supervisor or manager and you expect to come and tell me how to weld or what your idea of a good welder is, you need to put in the experience that I put in, or the experience of your teammates, your subordinates. I'm recording this off my phone, so if it's shaky, I apologize. If you want to teach them, first follow. Okay, you can lead them. There's different ways of leading. Hey, maybe you want to say, hey, here's what we got to do, guys. We got to get a little bit better at this. But you don't say, okay, hey guys, we have this many mess ups. Here's what you have to do. Your welding sucks. Well, I hate to say it, when it comes to some people, welding doesn't suck. It's usually one of two things. One, the person welding does not give a crap, okay? Or the person in their industry does not give a crap in their job. It could be, hey, I'm in sales. I suck at sales. I don't care if I sell. I'm getting a paycheck. Okay, I grew up, you don't work in a job that you're just looking for a paycheck. Hey, yeah, you got to pay bills, but do something that you like doing. You'll actually work harder and you'll enjoy what you're doing. Number two is a supervisor that does not know how to lead. And by lead, I mean there is a difference between being a supervisor and being a leader. If you are a very good leader, and you can supervise, there's no better supervisor out there. There's no better person to lead or for me to follow. When I was a supervisor, if I could not do a job better than the person that I was teaching or trying to get to go better, I had no right telling them how to do it. If you want to teach a person how to do something, if you're a welding supervisor, no experience, you go up and tell somebody that's a welder and been doing it for 10 plus years or 5 plus years or whatever, or has gone to college to become a welder and is amazing at it, and you go up to them and you tell them how to be a supervisor, you are not a leader. You're just a boss. You're just trying to get them to try to be better. Well, if you can't show them how to be better, you're not going to lead. A great diagram of this is you have a rope, okay? Think of kind of like a tug of war, okay? On that tug of war, you can be one of two people, okay? Or like think of trying to pull a truck with a rope, okay? You can be the supervisor where you sit in the truck, start yelling at your team, grab the rope, and start pulling me. Or you can be the person that gets on the front of that rope and says, all right, guys, and you pull harder than everybody else. You pull harder than everybody else, everybody's going to be like, well, if he can do it, I have to be better than my supervisor because I have to prove a point. And if they eventually catch you and become as good as you and understand you, then you have to be better. As a supervisor, you never stop becoming better with your employees. As a person, as me, I mean, I'm just a welder right now. I work for the union. But I'll tell you what, I've had some great supervisors and leaders. One of which I watched a guy. When I first started at the company, this is back in 2010, I think. First time I worked for this company that I'm at now, I would just attempt, but I had a guy, they trained me correctly, and I started figuring things out on how I wanted to do something. It was still within the total policies of all the, of both the union and the company policies for safety and everything, but I figured out how to do a job faster. And granted, some employees get upset because they think I'm trying to outperform them. I'm not. I learned work harder, work smarter. My supervisor at the time, when I told him what I was doing, all he told me, and this is a supervisor that was a former welder, he told me, he says, as long as you get whatever no matter how you do it, as long as you are better than the person next to you, he says, I'll never complain. He says, but if you are the worst person, he says, you and I are going to have a conversation. So I always made sure that I did the best. I busted my butt every day. He would never come around unless, hey, maybe if I forgot to oscillate something or I forgot to chip away a little bit of the spatter on a finished product. He would come and tell me if it got back to him, it was relayed to me, and that's all I ever asked. Left me alone. Shortly after, he got moved to a different department. Supervisor came along that was straight out of college, no experience in the industry, and told me how to weld. Thought that the way I was welding was incorrect. Not true. His major wasn't engineering. It wasn't welding. From last thing that I understood, it was science. That was what I was told. And his knowledge of welding proved it. So I never listened to him. I didn't care to listen to him. And nothing against my production. You irritate or you think you're a know-it-all and irritate your subordinates, i.e. the people that are actually on the floor working, you will watch production decrease. Okay, and that goes for all. Anything from, manufacturing to sales to, it could be, engineering, anything, So what ended up happening is actually a week before I was supposed to get rolled over, they let me go. They ended up, why? Because the plant's productivity had actually decreased by 30% because the guy that was taking over my position took over several positions, irritated pretty much everybody, and our production dropped by 30% because we really didn't give a crap anymore. He irritated us so bad. And I wouldn't even say hindsight, but what ended up happening is it got so bad they let all the temps go, and I was between jobs until I got hired back. Next thing you know is I got a supervisor. When I came back to work for the company, this is about a little over a year ago. Next thing you know is I work for a supervisor, amazing welder, probably one of the. When I say one of the best welders, I say probably one of the better welders in the company. A welder that constantly pushes himself harder and faster in every day. Okay? The way I was being taught, I got taught 4 different ways by 4 different people, all of which made no sense to me. I couldn't fathom it, and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't make rate, the minimum rate. And so knowing how good a welder he was, and he had previously actually worked in my actual spot in the department, I went to him. I asked him. I said, "Hey, if you want me to get better, I need your help." I told him, I said, "I want you to stand by me for a day, not say a word, watch how I weld, and at lunch, 4 hours into the workday, while I eat lunch, I'll eat lunch with you. Tell me what I'm doing wrong or how I can improve." He did. My production instantly went up by 75%, and this is within a day. So, and then I eventually figured out my own way to tweak his ways a little bit faster, and I got faster and faster and faster and faster, and then I ended up being able to do an 8-hour rate in about 6 hours, sometimes 5.5. Now, move forward to now. I've got a supervisor that went from being a welder to being a supervisor. Just because he's used to be a welder, you would think he'd be a great supervisor. Yes, he knows how to weld. Great. So I'll give him that credit. Downfall. When you treat your employees just because you think you are a know-it-all, you want to have a power trip. You think because you are higher than them that they have to listen to you. Wrong. So what happened is rates dropped. I went from getting it done in 6 hours to I'll always make my rate. So I got my minimum rate in 8 hours. Same with our entire line. It went from getting our rate done in 6 hours and then being able to go home and relax and a little bit longer. Granted, we didn't get the extra 2 hours of pay, but we showed what our capabilities were. Okay, we'll barely make rate. We'll always make rate, but that's what it is. Now, when I was a supervisor, okay, I had a team. I worked for the old Gander Mountain. I can say this because Gander Mountain's no longer around. It was bought out and created in Gander Outdoors. But what ended up happening is I went from being a welder in 2010 to I ended up finding a job doing video repair over the phone for a company. And then I went to Gander. I was offered a supervisor job because they knew about how I led, in my opinions. And I walked in there, talked to the store manager, was my interview, and she asked what I thought. And I told her, I said, how bad's the store? I said, what's it ranked out of all the stores? She said, it's dead last. I said, then you got an issue. She's like, well, I need somebody that can lead the guys. I said, that's not a problem. I said, I'll lead them. I said, in fact, I'll make it so that we're first. That was my goal, is to be the best company in Gander. And this is before we found out it was closing and getting sold and everything. I told her, all I ask is that you allow me free reign of my department. I was firearms, archery, fishing, and outdoors. Well, what ended up happening is I started out, of all things, on Thanksgiving Day, watching guys stand behind a counter, just stand there, lean on a counter, not really give a hoot. Black Friday comes around, work that day too, guys selling and stuff like that. And one of our requirements at that time was you have to sell over and above the cost of the gun, over the cost, the price of the firearm, because it's what we called baskets, and that was one of our rate metrics. Not a problem. Once I started doing that, and I had a idea on how to do sales. I watched my dad, who used to be a salesman and worked his way up from used car salesman all the way up to service manager, but was always very good at sales. So I always kind of picked up on that. My mom was always good at sales and stuff like that. So I kind of always had that in my mind. So I started realizing that put forth effort and don't be cocky, and treat every customer with perfect, service. You walk as fast as you can to get something. You show them every option you can, blase, blase, blase. And these guys were telling me when I first joined that, because I was the 7th supervisor in 6 months. They always called me, oh, so you're number 7, huh? I looked at them, and at that time I didn't know what they were talking about. They were talking about, number 7 is, I'm just another number because I'm going to be gone. I looked right at him. I said, I don't know. I said, I'm not a number. I said, I'm your guys' supervisor. I'm the, firearms, archery, fishing, outdoors supervisor. I said, so if you have a problem with that, I said, I've got no reason to keep you here. I said, if you guys don't want to follow, I said, not me push you. I said, for you guys to follow me, then I have no reason for you. Next thing you know, is they kind of blew it off. They didn't think anything of it. So I had to prove a point to them. Basically the first 3 weeks to a month was, understanding the department, knowing all the knowledge, a lot of, figuring out products and, areas and stuff like that so I can understand it. Second month, my goal was to outsell every single one of them combined. Accomplished it. Next thing you know is the third month. Now they're upset that a supervisor outsold them in addition to maintaining, or I should say, going over the standards and exceeding the standards to the company. Doing all the paperwork, keeping them in line, everything like that. Some of them followed, some of them didn't. The ones that did became great. The ones that didn't started to get, I wouldn't say harassed, but started getting pushed by the other guys saying, hey, pick your end up. Now we're starting to get serious. We're not dead last anymore. Let's see how high we can go. Some guys ended up getting let go. Some guys stayed. And next thing you know is here we are. We're number 1 for the very last metric before the company folded, before it was sold. Not a problem. So here's my theory to you guys. If you want to be a great supervisor, know your craft. Okay? If you don't know your craft and become a supervisor, i.e. whether it be in a sales or whether it be in a manufacturing or anything, before you can lead a team and have them be great, you have to know your craft. If you want to come out of college, no problem. You want to come out of college as a English teacher or drama or science or anything other than what you're actually trying to get a supervisor or manager position for. If you get hired, understand what the minimum requirements are and approach it that way first. After that, start asking your guys, okay, hey guys, here's what we need to do. Like me, I'm a welder. I'm the type of guy, you have a question on welding, I don't care if you're an owner or, you're 6 years old. I'm going to take 30 seconds out of my day and I'm going to explain something to you. If you're going to learn it and you're serious about learning, I'm going to teach you. So ask you guys stuff. Ask you guys questions. Okay, hey, I'll be honest, I'm a supervisor. Don't know a lot about welding, but I know how, we need to get a production. So what can I do to help? Okay, next thing you know is somebody comes over to me into my spot and into my fixture where I build. Hey, why are you welding this? Or why do you weld it this way and not this way? I'm going to tell you my way. Doesn't mean, hey, if you have an idea, I'll implement it. I'll try it. But if you just tell me, no, you're doing it wrong, I'm not going to listen to you. I do not care. At that time, you're starting to lose respect for me. Or I'm starting to lose respect for you. Hardest thing, and when it comes to respect, the hardest thing to get in this company is respect. Once you get it, it's great. Once you lose it, it is harder to gain it back than when you first start. You have to go above and beyond to get that back. Trust me, it ain't easy. So if you're going to become a supervisor and you want to learn, trust me, follow the people below you first. Not that you're pushing them. It's that you are learning who they are. After that, toe the rope. Don't let them toe it. You toe it. Yes, there's times people aren't going to listen even after you're towing the rope. Well, then you know what? If they're not going to follow, maybe it's time to start either moving them to a new position. Maybe it's time to look at other options in regards to that person's, position itself. I know a lot of people that go into a company, you aren't good at what they're doing, but they're doing it for a paycheck. They got families to feed. Doesn't mean that I'm trying to say, well, if they got families to feed, you just kick them out. Sorry for your bad luck. No, work with them. Maybe they need a little extra training. Maybe they need, I've seen horrible welders get certified through my company, which was mind blowing. But the other thing is to teach them to be better than what they were the day before. If you can't do that, if you can't do those three things, then I'll tell you what, you are not going to be a great supervisor. You're going to be actually a quite horrible supervisor, and you are going to watch yourself get either demoted or kicked out as a supervisor. You might have all the excuses in the world, but I'll be honest, only even a supervisor or manager can only BS so long, to their supervisor or to their boss before excuses run out and you get either demoted or you get kicked out, which to me makes me no difference. But that's why I work hard, because I don't want to get kicked out, even as just an employee. I try to learn. Even in my job, I'm a welder. I do the same position over and over and over, day in and day out, 5 days a week, sometimes 6. And I put in, but I always tried to learn something better. When I started welding, I was what I call a smooth welder. I don't weave or whip. I always just go straight line, make that weld as smooth as possible. Some people have always learned how to whip or weave. Depends on what you call it. It's the same thing in my opinion. Next thing you know is, I had to adjust. I have a natural shake in my, in my dominant hand. I'll show you. It doesn't allow me to move straight across anymore. It naturally jerks. So I had to adjust my welding style to a great weave or whip. So what I'm saying, guys, is if you're going to become a great supervisor, first learn, then lead, and they'll follow. If you're just pushing and you're not allowing them to follow you, you'll never be a great supervisor. So with that being said, this is my first opinion on being a great supervisor, and I'll talk to you guys later.